Hi, and welcome back to Rick's Room. So, this is the podcast where we simulate the end of a busy conference day. When we've been working hard all day, we're exhausted, we finally get to the lounge, to a comfortable seat, and we get to talk to someone we've been waiting for all day. Now, if you've been watching this show for a while, you know that I love technology. I love AI. I love all the new tools that are coming out. But rarely do I get an opportunity to talk to someone that understands it both at a high level and on the ground in the companies that are implementing it. Today's guest is exactly that person with over 2 decades of experience in mortgage operations. She has been on the front lines of implementing some of these new tools, and I can't wait to introduce you to her today. If you don't already know her, it's Jen Chapman. Jen, thanks for being with me.
Thank you, Rick. Glad to be here.
So I learned about you because we haven't known each other that long from Molly Dowdy, Laura Lasher. Both of them told me that I should talk to you after I was talking about AI or something. They says, oh, we know who knows about that. And so I want to talk to you about that. But first, in all my years of reporting, I have never come across someone who said, yes, I plan to be in the home finance industry, and that's what I would. So they all get in some weird way. How did you get into this business?
Well, like I did not go to college to get into the mortgage business. So business degree, generic, right?
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to be a business lady. I started in title as a baby, I'll say literally as a baby. And there was literally a local ad in the paper. So I answered that ad, started at a title company, moved on to Litech. The crash happened, so laid off December 2008. And then again, the days of ads in the newspaper, answered a loan processor ad for a local mortgage company and started with them in April 2009. And then after that, worked my way up, worked in almost every position in that company. So if you think of disclosures to clearing suspense to get it sold to an investor, I worked everything in between over 17 years.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. And it's funny to me because my first job in this industry was in a title company. I was the courthouse researcher. They used to run me across the courthouse and search all the liens and all that stuff. So
you'd bring us back a piece of paper, scribbled yellow notepad. Yeah. I had to type those.
I remember the world was so different back then. Pens and paper and pads and clipboards and today we have AI. Now, I've talked to a bunch of people who are so excited about this. I'm excited about it. And they're talking about how at a high level to implement this. But I'm very interested in your experience inside the mortgage operation. How is it different viewing it from the lender's perspective?
Sure. And I think there's a lot of consultants out there that have been educating us over the last 2 years. I follow many of them on LinkedIn and have talked to many of them, watched different webinars and things that they have given and advice. And they are talking about it from a very high level. But what I don't think we're hearing very often is the groundwork, those really implementing it within a company and everything that takes. And so when you think about setting up AI governance and framework within a company, you have to start with a policy and a strategy and then really get your framework set before you start implementing. And so that takes a minute because you literally have to train your leadership group. You have to make your policy and tweak it about 8 million times as you're going through this process. And then when you think about governing different types of AI, maybe it's within the loan manufacturing process, or maybe it's a text or voice AI through your CRM or what have you, all different types. The governance committees that have to review that and approve that and sign off on that. So especially if you're a Freddie seller, your CIO and your leadership team has to sign off on it. And so that means they have to know it. They can't just sign off. They have to know what's happening with that particular piece of AI. They have to sign off on it, put their name on it. But then after that, you have your pre-deployment and your post-deployment testing. It doesn't just mean that we have our governance and framework, we can deploy it. There's a lot that happens after the deployment as well. But if we go back to just setting up your governance and your framework, we're talking about setting up not only committees and teaching your leadership, but updating policies within your company. And upwards of 11 different policies really need updated when you think about uh, implementing AI within your organization. So, your vendor management policy, your safeguards, your QC policy now is going to have a whole AI component, change management. There's a lot that goes into governing AI and just setting it up and getting your company ready to even think about implementing it.
Wow. So this is not like finding a website privacy policy online somewhere and copying it and put it on your website.
No.
This is much more in depth. Now, in my time as a mortgage tech reporter, we talked about a lot of technologies that were very difficult for the mid-tier or smaller lender to implement because they just didn't have the internal teams. Do lenders in general have the internal teams to do this work now, or are they going to have to go outside?
Some are going outside, so it depends on how your organization is set up. So, in my role, I was in charge of operations, and also IT and tech reported to me. So, I was able to bridge the gap between the two and do it. But a lot of companies do need a consultant because when you think about updating all the policies, making sure your data and your infrastructure is ready for it. Legal and compliance, because you have to make sure you understand all the different states you work in and what their regulations are, as well as like the GSEs. And so you're regulated by everybody really when it comes to this. So there's really operations, compliance, and legal tech. All of those need to come together to get it done. So it depends on if the organization has someone that really understands all of those and can own that process. Because it's not only, you mentioned privacy policy. So I mentioned 11 different policies you may have to update, but you're also updating disclosures. Like your privacy policy has to change, your website has to change. And if you think about the TCPA requirements and opting in and all of that, it's your website, it's your disclosures, it's your policies, it's your training. It's a lot. And you really have
Oh,
to understand it globally to roll
oh
it.
man. Well, now in the course of my career, because I've been here a long time, we've written about tons of great tools that lenders put off because the change was too much. Fannie and Freddie's AU automated underwriting that took a decade to get adopted by lenders. But we don't seem to have that problem with AI. The lenders want it. Every client of mine that goes to a conference says that that's all they hear. How can I make AI run my entire business? Which we're not there. We're not even close to
Yeah.
there yet. But is it a kind of an overlapping policy for how the lender deals with AI, or do you need separate policies for every which way that you're going to deploy it? Because some of them are using it just workflow to workflow.
Yeah.
Others are trying to create AI LOs, right? If that's even possible yet, I don't know. What's what are they looking at?
Every piece of AI, like I said earlier, is different and it's going to be governed differently. So when you think about implementing it within your loan manufacturing process, that's a whole different governance than it is when you're using something not within your loan manufacturing process. So for example, let's say you're a Microsoft shop, you have your SharePoint set up, that's where all of your program guidelines are, your policies, everything. You can have your internal employees use that and as a chatbot be able to get answers from product sheets and guidelines and procedures and everything really easily, right? That's an internal AI function that you can use that doesn't touch the loan manufacturing process, so less governance is needed. But when you talk about anything that goes within your loan process, that's a higher level governance. It's more risk, and that's when those committees really come in. So you should have an ethics committee, a regulatory committee, security committee, data committee, QC committee, and then finally a final approval committee, which is the top executives in the company owning it and signing off and saying it has been approved and meets all of our guidelines.
Wow.
It's a
Wow.
lot.
It's a lot. And in the old days, I would have said lenders are going to put this off as long as they can, but I don't think that's the case today. I think they
No.
realize they realize how important this is from a competitive standpoint.
Absolutely.
And
But
they have,
unfortunately, I think there might be some lenders out there making it a little too easy and deploying something without the correct governance because you mentioned vendors
yeah,
earlier. Vendors are not responsible. The
right.
lender using the technology is responsible. So sometimes I think vendors make it seem too easy. Just
Yeah,
turn it on and it's ready to go and we'll hook it up to your system. But the lender needs to stop and understand, do I know the compliance around this and the security around this? If it touches borrower private information, you have a whole nother level. So
right, right. S-
hopefully people aren't doing that.
Yeah, so all of the people in the mortgage industry who are watching this already know the answer to this question, but for my edification, talk to me about the downside risks of getting this wrong. What do they face if they, yeah, don't?
Oh gosh, many different aspects. So the big one would be auditors coming in and you having to sit at that table and explain your AI. And you have to know how, what it has access to, how it's giving the answers, how you're QCing it. So if you can't explain it, you are going to see audit findings. And so I'm assuming that those are coming fast and furious, knowing that companies are starting to implement all these different AI things. So
Yeah,
that's one. But then if you have it connected to a consumer,
yeah,
the risk is different there, but really big because a consumer facing chatbot, a text, a call, or anything, a loan decision, if any of that's wrong, you've then lost your trust with the consumer. And so that's another type of risk as well.
oh man, oh man. This is an evolving area in our business, which makes it exciting, but it also means that the answers and the questions are changing as we go. So you got to promise me, Jen, that you'll come back on. But before I let you go, I know you're doing some other cool things out there in the industry. You're working with Athena's Council. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh. So Molly Dowdy started Athena's Council, and it's really just a wonderful space for women in the mortgage industry to connect, collaborate, help each other. She's really done something wonderful there. And so you get to meet all these wonderful professional ladies from all different aspects of the mortgage industry. So, marketing, AI, operations, IT, all these wonderful things, and it gives you a whole group of people to collaborate with, which is just helping us all get better and smarter and serve the consumers even better. So she's doing something great over there.
That's fantastic. I'm glad you're working with her. Anyone who has the opportunity to work with Molly and the people she surrounds her with is fortunate. You should take advantage of that.
Agreed.
All right, Jen, we're bumping up on time. Thank you so much for being here. I want to see you in the future, so I hope you'll agree to come back on another show.
Absolutely. Thank
All
you.
right. All right. And thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time.